So what we have here today is our end of year update. So this has been one heck of a ride for us at Virtual C, but it's resulted in some really cool things that I am excited to announce in January. So you guys will have to sit on pins and needles a little bit longer. But what we do have is, because we ran our year efficiently, is we're wrapping up here in Humanize IT and Virtual C. So the advantage is now I have 3 weeks to polish up any outhanging or outstanding projects, activities, and what's going on. So, if Skip and I want to, we have the freedom to plan our last 3 weeks however we want. And that is an enviable state to be in, and you have to work hard to get here. But that still means I still have things to do. I have to close out books for the business. I have to close out accounts. I have to true up any contracts I have, any obligations. But that's just some cleanup. All my projects are done for the most part, except for one big one. And that largely is just to kick off my 2021. So the thing that I want to talk to today is about, so I put it in the email, and it looks like, I don't know, did you guys get it in gray?
Yes.
HubSpot likes to default to gray, and I don't know why. And somebody can tell me why. I'd love to know.
No, it's so calm. It's so subtle.
My eyes.
You just can't read it, but hey, still it's subtle.
Eyes. Although I did have, I used to run my VI interface with a dark on dark font. So it was a dim forest green on black.
I'm colorblind, so I just multiple shades of gray, and I'm happy. This is where Adam catches up with everybody.
Sorry. I was reading through my notes of what I had planned for today's meeting, and I'm still like distracted by the gray. I'm like, how is that gray going? And in the back of my head, I'm like, so what the goals are towards the end of the year is just like my Friday. Yeah, definitely something in that soda. You're just wishful thinking. Do you even have booze out there in South Africa yet?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering earlier.
Oh, you do? Okay. Just the stuff you made in buckets, though.
Careful, it makes you go blind.
So the end of the year is very much keyed into how I run my Fridays, and it took a while for me in my professional career to really buy into the idea that you can have free time and it's okay. So as many of you have heard, I take off Friday afternoons when possible. So I don't like to schedule meetings for Friday afternoons. If you see me schedule a meeting for Friday afternoon, know that I am grumbling over here and I'm getting a glass of whiskey. Because the idea is that by planning for that buffer, I am allowing myself a more freedom. And so with the end of the year, it's the same way. If you run your year properly, you should have about 2 weeks towards the end or at the beginning of your year free. And this is a good management strategy as well.
Yep.
Any one of your staff should be able to take off 2 consecutive weeks at some point during the year. If they can do that, you know you are running your department well. If they cannot do that, you are not running your department well, because everyone needs to be have redundant tasks. And so when I have this end of the year, like as of December 16th, 15th, I should be pretty free, because let's get down to it. Like in the United States, right around December 15th, if you're a parent, you pretty much are just like running from one event to another, except for this year. This year it's different.
Yeah.
But usually you're going to, I have 4 kids. And currently they're in 3 different schools: high school, middle school, and elementary, which means that I have 3 different school programs to go to, plus their after school activities. So I've
Yeah.
got 1 band, 1 vocal, 1 cross country runner, and 1 elementary kid. So that's like 8 concerts I have to go to between now and the end of the year. So I learned about a decade ago just to say, you know what, my last 2 weeks, they're just filled with concerts.
Yeah.
Now, what does this mean for your MSP? What this means is your staff are the same way. Even if they don't have kids, that last 2 weeks becomes kind of a crapshoot. And so because of big holidays like this, you have to, it's a great time to start planning in those 2 weeks of downtime.
Yeah.
Now, when I worked for a large corporation, we would plan downtime regularly. We would have change freezes at least once a quarter. So these 2 weeks of you cannot do any changes other than operational became a regular part of our work schedule. Now with smaller businesses, if you're under 500 employees, there's, once a year, probably a good idea, because having it towards Christmas, you're good. Having it every Friday afternoon, you're good. You can do things like that. But then when something hits the fan, you have those 2 weeks.
You have the buffer. Yeah.
You have that Friday afternoon. And it
Well,
only happens sometimes.
And so I got to share this story earlier this week. And so I want to say it again because it fits so well here. Being from an engineer and operational background, I've very much fallen into that, one fire to the next sort of mentality. That is, unfortunately been a long part of my career. It's just moving from project to project to project to, working on both sides of support and implementation side. There never seemed to be enough spare time to go around. So this idea that I'm going to, even though I have a whole, slew of projects to work on, or maybe it's not anything really high priority, it's just stuff that, needs to be done. I'm still going to take some time and go, look, I'm not going to do that right now. And, it probably took me longer than I should, not longer than it should have, but, at least a decade or so to realize, hey, that stuff is always going to be there. By pressing the pause button for a couple of weeks, the world's not going to come to an end. The projects aren't all going to fall apart. The network's not going to explode. We can push that off. But here's a story I want to tell. So here's the real applicable work specifically in MSPs. So I worked for many years with a sales director. His name was Dale, and he was fantastic. In fact, I would start rummaging through his office one time. He's in there. He's sitting at the desk, and I'm just, I'm digging through his bookshelves and stuff like that. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm looking for your crystal ball. I know you got one in here somewhere." All right. And I said that because this guy had the uncanny ability to predict our sales 12 months down the road. And I'm talking, $20 million a year, $28 million a year. One time I remember one, and he was within a couple of percentage points on that. Big growth, 30% growth one year. And so I'm saying all this, say it can be done. I mean, you as leaders in the MSP community, you can take some time, and Dale would do this. And these last 2 weeks of December was Dale's pondercating time. All right. So Dale's an old cowboy kind of guy, and to ponder or to contemplate, and mash it together.
Pontificate.
No, it's pondercate. Pondercate.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong part of the country.
There you go. Pondercate. And so our offices were right next to each other. And these last 2 weeks of December, I could really just almost always count on it being a 50-50 flip as to whether Dale was sitting at his desk or whether he was standing at the window. We actually had an enviable view out our windows. We were across the street from a golf course. So it's kind of nice, especially we were out in West Texas, and, everything except for the golf courses is, dead brown. The golf courses are green though. And so Dale is standing there at the window just kind of looking out the window, pondercating. And he's working on the next year. He's working on his sales. He's working on the initiatives. He's working on the technologies that we're going to focus on from a sales perspective. He's trying to figure out how to get the most out of that vendor program that they've, talked about and they're going to launch at the beginning of the year. He's spending that time to plan out for the next year. And so, for that year, when we had a 30% growth, when Dale made that announcement in week 2 of the year, mid-January was our big, kickoff. And he would say, hey, we're going to increase sales by 30% this year. Everyone looks around and goes, okay. And, you might say, yeah, that sounds good. That's all cool. We'd love to do that, but if you don't, buy into it, then you're not going to get there. But Dale had a process that we went along as well. And fast forward that year, we come around mid-December and we make our final sales announcements. And hey, guess what? We increased sales by 30% that year. And it is all because we took that time to pondercate. All right. Let me just steal Dale's term there. We took that time in December. And so it's the season of pondercation. All right. To reflect where you're going to go, what are you going to do with your MSP? And so I tell you that long old man story to say, practically as an MSP, you can do that. You can plan out 2021. Yes, there's going to be curveballs. There's going to be ups and downs. Who knows? But by making plans, you're going to be much, much more successful than not.
Well, and that's a great story, and it reinforces kind of what we've been talking about this year. There was a couple weeks there where we talked about the value of being bored and building in peace and quiet. So I have a story I tell usually in that there's a reason why you have your best ideas while you're in the shower. It used to be while you're on the toilet or the shower or right before you fall asleep. Oh my gosh. Because those are the few times in the day where your brain is not busy. Now you're playing games on the hood. Bob's probably playing Bubble Breaker. Richard's probably playing like My Little Ponies. I don't know. But you're no longer letting your brain idle. And so like on those Friday afternoons, when I'm having a cigar or something or talking to people, other businesses, we come up with some great ideas then. And that's when you start things start snapping together right before you go into bed at night. Those little Legos like, oh my gosh, that's the perfect solution to this. And it's because you're relaxed. As engineers, we tend to fill our schedules 24/7 with activities. And so these last 2 weeks of the year, it's that time to reflect on the previous year and get going with the next year.
Pondercate.
Pondercate. We're gonna start putting that into the HIT lexicon. And so what I do to get to this point is it's what Skip and I have been talking to you guys about since October, is get your end of year activities done in November. Be finished with your end of year activities in November so that when you get to this point in the year, you're done. Outside of meeting with a few of you on my calendar throughout the end of the year, my year is done. I will close out my books with my accountant. I will meet with a few of you to do some road mapping, and then I will be back in January. And that's the way things work for me, because Skip and I spent our time working hard at the end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter, so that we could have this end of year. And people forget that. People don't feel like they have permission to end their year December 15th. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's true.
The only reason why you're going up to the last minute on December 31st is because you have set your deadline to December 31st. Your clients aren't making you do that. Your bosses aren't making you do that. You are defining that. And so if you can move that and move your deadlines a little bit so that you're finishing in November, let yourself bleed over to December 15th, December 16th being the absolute last day you possibly can do anything. That way, you now have that breathing room. You can relax. Yep. This is standard time and budget. You got to get this in your head that you can't plan every minute of every day. No one is that good. And I have this conversation with my wife and with my kids and with people in my personal life and with people in our board meetings. And I say, well, why didn't you get done? I'm like, well, I had meetings until 4:30. Like, why not finish your meetings at 4? Like, well, I have until 4:30. Like, 4:30 is when you have to leave, or 4:30 is when you need to come to the board meeting. Give yourself that buffer. And I know I'm as guilty as anybody else as trying to fill up as much time as possible. I am what one person explained was I'm overly optimistic with my time.
Yeah.
And so not filling your time, but always allowing a buffer at the end of your day. The last half hour, you don't have meetings. Never end your day in a meeting. That's just bad news for everybody. You can quote me on that. If you have a meeting from 4 to 5, if that's the last thing you did today, you are failing as a manager, because that does not allow anybody to go back and record and take action items. Everybody's going to leave right from that meeting and go right into their car so they can head home and pick up their kids to do whatever they need to do. So you have to have that buffer at the end of the day. A full hour.
Unless your meeting involves beer and pizza, it's probably not a good meeting.
Even then. The beer and pizza should happen in the AM. Gotta let that hangover kind of get off before you get home.
So let me make a call out. So, you guys, if you're looking at this and going, this sounds great, but there is no way I'm going to be able to do that this December. I mean, maybe you're watching the recording.
Not this year, because you didn't plan correctly.
Well, maybe you're watching the recording of this because you planned on showing up and watching this live, but you just got swamped because things are just too crazy. And so you picked us up on the recording. All right. Thanks for picking up the recording. But if you want this sort of scenario next December, you really need to start now. All right. And, operationally, again, that's always my focus is, what can I do now? And it's make those, in the managed service platform calls it playbooks. But, for me, it's just make a plan. How are you going to engage with your clients? Lay those out. And January is, absolutely the best time to push those plans and those calendars out. So work on that. And if you start working on that, then comfortably you can be in this sort of scenario next December where you go, I'm kind of coasting on out through the end of the year, whatever 2021, brings up. If you've got a plan to deal with it, if you've got planned engagements. All right. So let me, take off on a short tangent here. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but if Q1 is really, really great and you have already on the books a meeting with your client to discuss Q1, well, that's awesome. But if Q1 goes really, really bad, but you already have a meeting on the books to discuss that with your client, that's awesome. All right. Because no matter which way it goes, you're going to be in a position to adapt and work with your clients on that. So it really is all about taking that initiative, putting those plans out there. I don't like a to-do list. I don't like being confined, in this sort of stuff. I like to kind of have my freedom to do stuff. And so, but just putting those meetings out there, that's all I need. I get closer. I'll throw the no minute like the last minute flag in on some of those and get it done, right up to the very end. But because I've already put those out there, I'm going to be able to meet my big expectations, my big goals of having those engagements with our clients.
Yeah. So the reason we bring this up now, like for instance, Bob just said he takes off, he's taking off Christmas to New Year's, is that when you're planning a roadmap next year with your clients, take this into consideration. Now, some of you have different busy schedules. Maybe some of you are mostly dealing with schools. Maybe some of you are mostly dealing with doctor's clinics. So with your clients, you have to understand where they're coming from and plan your road to map activities around that. Then add in your buffers. I will not work after this time. Draw the line in the sand. For lack of for a raunchy term, like plan your prom date. How far are you willing to go? You know, you got to decide these things before you're in the moment, because otherwise, you know, bad things occur. You just like, oh well, while I'm here, and so you're loving my analogy. You got a visualization going there. Everybody on here is laughing right now. I know it. But the idea is, like, when you're in the moment, you're just acting reactively. You're putting out the fire, saying, oh, why not go? And so if you plan out and say Friday afternoons or Friday mornings or Monday mornings, I'm off. What is the convenient time? Have the buffer there. I like mine at the end of the week, end of year, because I know I'm going to fill my year and fill my week, and then I'm going to have that buffer at the end. And every once in a while, I fill it. Every once in a while, I have a bad year, and that's okay.
Yeah.
When you fill every week up until 5 o'clock Friday, then that means that some weeks you're going to go from 5 to 10 on Friday. And no one likes that.
Yeah.
So when you're planning these roadmaps, when you're opening up the MSPL platform and you're making those roadmaps with your clients, look really hard at that fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is for planning and reconciliation of the year, so that as the first 3 quarters go along and you're planning with your clients those first 3 quarters, you can push things into fourth quarter that are absolutely necessary. And if not, they get moved into first quarter the next year.
Yeah.
That fourth quarter, that Friday afternoon, that December 15th through 31st, those are guarded times. And that's to keep your sanity. But also, there are a lot of ancillary benefits to it. One, having quiet time to have aha moments. Having that time where, like, oh crap, bad things just happened. I need to make up for this. Having that emergency button that you can have. If you don't build an emergency time, you're just going to borrow into personal time.
Yeah, that's it.
And you're going to stress yourself out, and you're going to find yourself getting crankier and crankier. You're going to find yourself more and more stressed throughout the year as projects are piling up. Because I've seen me make the illustration of the pile that everybody has in the back of their mind that they're trying to chip away at. That pile will grow. If you put in buffers at the end of the week, end of the quarter, end of the year, wherever you need to, put them in now while you're planning out 2021, put them in there so you can tell your clients, nope, can't do that week. It's already full. Why is it full? It's a change freeze. Why is the end of the year full? It's a change freeze. That is the proper term if you want to tell them why they can't schedule that. That is a change freeze. We don't do changes then. And you will find yourself relaxing. And you'll also find yourself in a lot less firefights, because you're going to start, your brain is going to be relaxed enough to pick up on things before the end of before they get too bad. So I think on one of our podcasts, I might have talked about this.
Soda can. It's what? Yeah.
On one of our podcasts, I told this story about how I was working for a large corporation and I was really good at my job. I was one of the top rated engineers. And then I started getting more and more added onto my schedule. This is where I got my Friday afternoon idea from. More and more and more, I started getting things piled onto me because I was good at my job. But I started burning out, but I didn't know that I was burning out. My brain didn't realize that. I did not self-actualize that I was burning out. I started getting crankier and snippier. And I started making more and more mistakes on critical assets. I mean, really dumb mistakes. Things like submitting a firewall rule outside of the change window. I'll do it really quick. I was just making whimsical decisions. And it wasn't until after I left the organization that I realized that I was completely exhausted. I mean, just beyond exhausted. I slept about 12 to 14 hours a night for 2 weeks straight. And like I got done, I reflected back on the past year and how much of an asshole I was. And you don't realize it in the moment. And I promised myself I wouldn't do that to myself or my family anymore. So I started building in those buffers. And I started like seeing the value of them, that it's not lazy, it's just due diligence. it's what you need to get successful. And, I'd always read upon it in management strategy books, but it never really hit home until that moment. That was about 10 years ago. And that's when it really hit home. And I promised myself I would watch for these same things in my employees and in fellow coworkers, because looking back on it, there were 4 or 5 of us who were top rated engineers who all burned out about the same time. And it was just bad. I mean, we were going through a lot of changes and trying to hold this place together. And, had I known at the time, I could have brought it up to management saying, hey, look, we're burning out. We need some kind of new scheduling here.
Yeah.
But now I teach other people and other IT organizations, you got to have this time, not only for yourself, but also to make sure your business stays running at its full potential. As Bob's saying over here, 20% of the week on the business for leaders. I've heard 20% of the week on the business, not in the business.
Not in. Working
So
on, but not in.
planning
Yep.
1/5 of your time.
Yep.
80% operational, 20% planning, 20% strategy, 80%. Isn't there a saying out there like an ounce of prevention or
An ounce of prevention worth a pound of,
pound of cure?
I don't know. Yeah, I've
It's
lost that
something
one.
like that. But the idea is that if you spend just a little time on this end of year, a little time on your Friday afternoons, a little time at the end of the quarter, both your clients and you will be better.
Yep.
In coding, that's when you document. And so with that is what I wanted to end the year on. This theme has been through this entire year. Now, next year, we're going to start off our weekly updates, and they're going to look a little different next year.
Yep.
And so Skip has been pushing me for a while to change how we do community updates. And so I've got some things I'm going to be working on over the next 2 weeks here, but I can because I let this time happen. Is it critical that I change the way community updates are done? No, but I think everybody's going to be really excited about it. But also next year, we will also be talking through like, what should you be doing every quarter, every week, and kind of planning that out with you. And you're going to see this build in the buffer with your client, with yourselves, so that you're more successful. You get out of that firefighting mode.
Yeah. And I want to, this working in the business versus working on the business, that 20% to work on your business. I've seen that and how valuable it is. Let me expand on that a little more, especially if you've looked at the EOS model. You have the visionary role, and then you have the integrator role. Sometimes they have the same title or very similar positions within an organization, but if you look at what they do things very, very different. And whether you are a visionary or maybe perhaps you have visionary responsibilities. Okay. Kind of throw that one out there, because I know, my nature is not really visionary. I'm an ops guy. I like that. I own that. But I also know there needs to be a time when I can do it, and I need to be intentional and think visionary wise. And what I'm saying is that 20%, it may be a minimum. Okay. And you may need to expand that, because here's why. Successful companies follow a vision. They follow visionaries. All right. And if you aren't helping to contribute, or you aren't the sole contributor of your organization's vision, then there's nothing else for your team to do but just punch tickets out. I mean, and that's not going to be a successful business. So that vision time, that pondercating time, there you go, got it in again. That time looking forward, whether it be at the end of every week, the end of every quarter. I like what Adam's got, this cadence here. We build it in. That is really, really valuable to your organization, not just in reducing stress, not just making life better, but actually keeping your organization profitable and healthy. So, evaluate that. If you're the visionary, man, it is even more important that you take that time. If you're someone like me who maybe not a visionary all the time, but there are expectations, there are times when I need to set that up. Don't take that lightly. I mean, make sure that you are enabling yourself to be able to operate in that role.
Yeah. So take the time. That's the end of the year advice. Enjoy working again. Do not work up to the last minute, and you're going to be okay. And then apply this rule. If you want to apply the 80-20 rule to all of your roadmaps, do that, but be deliberate about it now. As Skip said,
Mhm.
starting in January, when you're planning your roadmaps, always build in the buffer.
I love making those plans. If you want to grab time on my calendar, I love making those plans.
If you
Hit me
think
up.
it's not, yeah, if you think it's not possible, grab time with Skip. He'll get you there. And sometimes you don't believe it until the next year. You know you're successful when you have reached a point where, like Skip and I, or even Bob, where you are able to take off those last 2 weeks guilt-free.
Yep.
So the only other thing I'll cover today is Adam's pick of the year for Christmas gift is the Oculus 2. I'm putting that out just as my free advice for everyone. Everyone's rushing for the Xbox X. Everybody's rushing
PS5.
for the PS5.
Yes.
But you know, for the Christmas, Adam's technology Christmas pick this year, the Quest 2. I've been playing with it for the past month. It is a blast. And then the other night, I went to the VR settings, and you can load up these 360 videos. And I sat on the beach for 20 minutes. And I got my son out of the shower. He came out of the shower, got his pajamas on, and he sat next to me and go, "Hey, buddy." And I put it on his head, and he goes, "Ah."
Says the guy from the frozen tundra, right?
Yeah. So for those of you who've had a really long year, highly recommend the Oculus Quest 2. It's definitely a great purchase this year. It's a good way to relax and get out of the house. There's even an app called Wonder that I've been using lately, where it's a mixture of Google Maps and 3D photographs, where you can actually visit any place in the world.
That is cool.
It's really cool. That's my pick of the year for everyone to sign off. And I look forward to next year. The first meeting, I should have some really big things to announce for a lot of people. You know, we're going to make things a lot easier for you to be able to use your reports digitally, kind of like what I do here, where I put things in the background, but enabling a much sexier look and feel with very minimal effort on your behalf. So we're doing a lot of things that are going to allow you to look like you're going to walk into a meeting and you're going to look amazing, and everyone else is going to look like chumps. And
Yep.
I'm really excited to announce some of these big changes that are happening that aren't going to impact your operations or how you use the platform so much as it's going to upgrade the look and feel, so to speak. And Skip and I are both excited about them. We just not ready to announce them yet. That's one of the reasons I'm going dark here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so he can keep his mouth shut.
So keep my mouth shut.
There you go.
Hint, hint. Everyone, I put hints in the emails for those of you who have not been reading the emails. There are hints in the emails.
See.
Maybe you Skip missed them.
I did. I think I did.
I'm pretty sure it's a very big hint. If you reread this week's email, you'll be like, "Oh man, I can't believe you did that."
Oh, okay.
All right, everyone. If you have any questions, reach out. Get some time with us. We are free for coaching through the end of the year.
Yes.
You're just going to be hit and miss with us being out of office.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
we are ready. We are available for roadmap planning. Get us so that we can help you have a relaxing December next year.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll talk to you all later.
See ya.